Hello. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to day 2 of Bitcoin Plus Plus Nix Edition. Happy to be kicking off today. Just a quick overview of what to expect today. We're going to have one presentation or workshop this morning by Timo. So we're very excited about that. And then after that, it's basically kind of like an unconference hackathon project day. At, I think, 4:30, if you've been working on a project, I'd really encourage you to come up and present it. I think we have some sats that the Stacker News community was grateful enough to put together as a hackathon prize. So based on, after everyone who wants to present on what they worked on comes up and presents, we'll maybe just do a community voting sort of thing on our favorite project, and then that'll be the one that wins the community sats. The presentations are really meant to be an opportunity to show off kind of what you learned or what you worked on. It'd be really cool if you have something that you finished and you want to show and present, but it's also, I think, a good opportunity just to show what you learned or what you tried and didn't work. So don't think of it necessarily as something where you have to have a finished project, but would highly encourage everyone who actually did something to come up and show off what you worked on so other people have an idea about, what you spent your time working on. Cool. Okay. So without much further ado, let's go ahead and get our first and only workshop of today up here. I don't know where 0xBTC is. Okay, great. Cool. All right, give it up for Timo. Thanks.
Thanks.
Do you want the lights in the thing on at all, do you think? Are people going to want to see? Or?
Probably not. I don't know. Good morning, second day. I'm going to talk about writing a NixOS module for your app, and I mean really your app. I'm Timo, 0xBTNC on Twitter. I normally work on Bitcoin. I'm able to do so because I'm supported by Spiral and HRF with a full-time open source grant. And I run a bunch of monitoring software for the Bitcoin network and make sure things are going great. And they are going great. And I am able to do so because I use Nix and NixOS, because I run a bunch of nodes, I run a bunch of servers, and that's only possible for me to do because I can manage and deploy everything with Nix and NixOS. One thing, please don't take photos of me. Sorry. I don't like my face being on the internet, and also I think we disabled the camera in front of here. Yeah. So the scope for this workshop is touching a bit on NixOS modules, systemd services in NixOS, and also touching a bit on running Bitcoin Core. We also touched on this yesterday, but we make sure to give you a chance to repeat this today as well. But this is only really touching the tip of the iceberg of what's possible with NixOS and NixOS modules. But I think it's a great introduction for you and a great hands-on way to get started. The timeline is as follows. I'm going to talk for the next 50 minutes or so, give you a brief introduction about NixOS modules, and then it's your turn, hands-on hacking. And to do so, there is workshop set up to do, but at this time you only need a GitHub account. You don't need a fancy IP address or anything else. But I recommend you to go to the instructions I've listed on my blog post here, and just click on the Open in GitHub Codespaces thing. It will open something that looks like this, and then you press Create New Codespaces. Codespaces is a feature of GitHub where they spawn Visual Studio Code instance for you and a VM, and inside the VM, that's something I configured. There will be a NixOS VM spawning, which you can use for the workshop to deploy stuff to and so on. And this might take, I don't know, depending on how many people click on this link right now, I don't know how fast GitHub can spawn up instances. This might take a few minutes, so after the talk, we should be ready to go.
Did you text a link to?
Yeah, it should be in the Telegram group as well. It's also on the slides in the bottom right corner. Does it work? It should look like this and take a few moments to start. Okay. To recap, yesterday we had a talk covering a bit about Nix, NixOS, and also Nix modules. To recap, Nix is a language and a package manager. NixOS is a distribution, a Linux distribution using this package manager, but it also has modules, like small parts, individual parts that make up the NixOS system. And I came up with this great analogy of having a puzzle piece as a NixOS module, and in the full NixOS system, once you build it and everything works, is the complete puzzle. I'm trying to use this analogy going forward, but first, do you know if the NixOS, if the configuration.nix file is a module? What do you think? Anyone has an idea? It describes a module. So is it a module? No? I think it is. Everything is a module. So yeah, coming back to this, so the structure of a NixOS module. First, we have some imports. Mostly, like these are imports of local modules, because you don't really need to import modules that are already in NixOS. You can just use them. For example, there is a module for Bitcoin Core, so you can just use this module. You don't have to import it. Then the module has options. This is basically an API definition where you say, okay, this is something other modules can use and plug into. So this is the left side of the puzzle piece, where you plug some other puzzle piece into, some other module into, and then there is the configuration part, which is option definition. So you define how to use other options that are either in NixOS or in other modules. And you declare an option in NixOS in the NixOS module under the options name, and you give it a name, and you use the mk option function. It takes as an argument the type, a default value, an example value, and a description. I'm going into details in some of the types that Nix offers, but for the defaults, it usually makes sense to think a bit about what makes sense here, what makes sense to put here. Does it maybe make sense to keep this as null for people to need to set this explicitly? If there's maybe a secret or something, you might want to keep it as null for people to get an error if they build if they build a system with your module and they haven't set it. Example is also always useful for people using it, and there is a documentation which also tells people what to put here and what maybe happens if you enable this option or if you set this option. NixOS has a bunch of types that we can use, starting with a bool, pretty basic, an integer, but you also have unsigned integers. And for example, there is special types like a port, which is basically just an alias for a 16-bit unsigned integer. But it's used so often, or it makes sense to have a special type for it. Also strings, a path, which points to file on your file system, and a package type, which basically says, okay, we can switch out the package used in this module. So if we have a Bitcoin Core, whatever release binary, we can switch a package, we can switch this out with the MutinyNet binary we had yesterday. So that makes sense to be able to configure what package to use in the module. There are also a bit more advanced types. This is only like a brief overview. There are a bunch more, but you can also have a list of type T. Pretty basic, and an attribute set, like a set of attributes of type T, or you can have a null or type T type, which basically says, okay, either null, like unset, or of type T. Yeah, and there are a bunch more on the NixOS manual. And I've also linked this in the workshop where you need it, so you don't have to go there right now. In the workshop, you'll find links to it if you need it. And then there is a special option. Pretty much every module has one of these. It's the mk enable option or make enable option. It says, it's basically short for an mk option for with a type of bool, defaults to false, and that's example to true because that's the other possible value here. And it always says whether to enable something, and in this case we have something is magic, and then it will print whether to enable magic. We used this yesterday too, when, for example, with the ln bits, we just set the enable to true, and that's how we enabled ln bits. So that's an option you come across also in the workshop, and we're going to use today. And here is an example I stole from NixBitcoin, from the Bitcoin D module there. It's a bit different than the module in NixOS, but it's good to demonstrate it here. So we have the MK, so first, we define under options, we define a service called Bitcoin D, and we have an enable option here, enabling us to enable the Bitcoin D daemon. Setting this to true will start the Bitcoin daemon. If not, it doesn't. And we also have an option for a data dir, so the location where we store the blocks and other data that Bitcoin Core needs. And it's of type pass, so it's a file system path for us. So we set it to some path and defaults to varlib Bitcoin D on NixOS modules, Nix Bitcoin modules. This is now the other side of the puzzle piece where we plug into other configuration options from other modules. So this is the configuration side, the config part of the module, where we say, okay, we want to set this configuration only if the enable flag is set. Otherwise, we don't do anything here. We don't do any processing. We don't care about it. And we have a systemd service called Bitcoin D. Systemd is also a module provided by NixOS. We're also going to use systemd today. And there are some configurations in here started after the network interfaces are up, and we want to start it at least, or we want to reach the target, multi-user target, and so we want to start it as part of this target. For the service configuration, we set an exec start, so that's basically the command to run once the service starts, and it uses the package that you can define in Nix Bitcoin. Again, you can switch out to a different, maybe commit or a different binary in the Bitcoin Core, built from Bitcoin Core. You always run the Bitcoin D binary there, but you can set the datadir path to config.datadir. That's basically what's happening here. So this is using this from the options. So this is in the options on the left side of the module, on the left side of the puzzle piece, and this is on the right side of the puzzle piece in the config part. So you might be curious how many NixOS options are there, where can I find them, and I can recommend definitely go to search.nixos.org/options. They say there are more than 10,000 options. And yeah, they're quite extensive. Maybe some of the modules you want to write are already in NixOS package or in the packages. And yeah, also some you can, for example, control the firewall with this. That's also a NixOS module. Yeah. And there are a few built-in functions for you can use during working with NixOS modules. That's not really NixOS specific, that's more Nix specific, but it makes sense to mention it here. There are functions for example, addition, pretty basic, adding E1 and E2. There's also a toString function you'll probably need in the workshop, just converts E to a string. And there is a trace function I find really useful for debugging. It prints E1 and returns E2. You can plug these functions just in your syntax, and it usually helps you debugging. And yeah, you can also have, there's also a map function which just applies the function to a list. You probably won't need these, but I just want to mention them that you're aware that there are a bunch of functions already defined that you can use. And that's it for the me talking part. Now it's your time to turn hands-on NixOS module writing. Again, I'm not sure, maybe some people came late. The instructions are here. Has anyone been able, or has anyone been unable to set up a GitHub Codespaces instance? No. Okay, so everyone has been able, right? Raise your hand. Yeah, good. Plenty of hands. Cool. So I was speaking about we're going to write a module for your app. Obviously, I don't know what your app is, what you want to run. Also, I don't know if you already packaged your app in Nix. So I brought a mock program for that. It's called Your App. It does two things. It connects to Bitcoin Core RPC server and just tries to establish a connection, does one RPC call, and after that, it starts a web server. And your goal is to get this web server starting and actually get a reply from this web server. So you have to plug in the options and do the configuration part here to get this running. And your app obviously needs the RPC information, so you probably want to have options for this, and also need support to listen on, and you also want to have an option for this. Before you start hacking, the VM should probably already be up. It should print VM is ready. For deploying to the VM, use this fancy script I've wrote. It's just NixOS rebuild. As we learned yesterday in Carl's talk, the reason for this is the VM is only emulated, so it's not using the KVM that would make it fast, so it's quite slow. Rebuilding in the VM is possible, but it would probably take half an hour or so. So we just build on the GitHub Codespaces terminal and deploy from there using NixOS rebuild to the VM. But you can log into the VM with SSH VM. And I would recommend you checking out the NixOS rebuild script if you're interested in using something like this for deploying. It's pretty basic. And yeah, I've prefixed the commands you should run during the workshop with host $, if you should run them on the GitHub Codespaces terminal, and with VM $, if you should run them in the VM. All right, and now it's your turn. In the document, you should find task 1. Might make sense to read it carefully. Your first step is to enable the rec-test Bitcoin Core node there, do a NixOS rebuild, and then use some systemd tools. And I have 2 questions to answer once everyone is done, but feel free to continue at your own pace through this workshop, and I'll sync up with you in a few minutes. Also, if you need help, raise your hand. I'd be happy to help. Okay, task 1, how is it looking? Were people able to rebuild the VM? Okay, not spinning up, okay. For the others, were you able to do task 1? System D isn't running. Okay, maybe we set the code spaces thing then. I'll stop by. All right, so some people were able to SSH into the VM I saw. Some people were able to use the system D tools, system control status. So so my first question is, how many lines does system control status show? Just one? 22? 23, okay. Okay. So it's a trick question. It's just for you to get it up and running. I don't care what number of lines it shows, but you can also use the general control thing to list to list more lines. Also, where is the data dir located? Has anyone found out? No, not in NixOS. Yeah, Bitcoin direct test, right? var lib Bitcoin direct test. So someone else mentioned something. So if you look closely at the NixOS rebuild script, it shows you some of the units that were reloaded. But was Bitcoin D actually restarted or started? Did anyone find out? All right, so it wasn't really restarted. There is a bug in the NixOS module for Bitcoin D. Enabling it doesn't be enabled. If you configure it, it's enabled. So this would be maybe a good first issue for someone to fix today in the hackathon time. So I'm just going to show you where it is. So we have, let me make this bigger. We have the MK enable option here for the Bitcoin D daemon, but we actually don't end up using it anywhere. So your goal, or if you want to fix it, you probably should add a filter function in here. So each Bitcoin D, the variable each Bitcoin D should only be the enabled Bitcoin Ds. Could be a good fix for today. also would be happy to review that. It might break some other people's setups though, because they have it on enabled like equals false, but yeah, it works for them. Okay, let's move on to task 2. This is more like the very big task for this workshop. It's really writing options, declaring options for your app server, and using these options, also enabling the firewall and enabling your app service. And you probably will see some errors if you don't do it correctly. And yes?
Was I supposed to skip task 0 because your app help doesn't run? That's what I said.
Task 0?
Yeah.
Do you see task 0? Where do you see task 0?
It's right at the top. Yeah, task 0 is set up for connecting to your app. Was I supposed to not do this part?
I'll come check in with you.
Sorry, I want to hold it for that. It just doesn't exist.
So as the question came up for task 2, this is not something you should run. This is more me printing you the help output of your app, because you actually don't know what's your app. Don't run this, it probably won't work. But it gives you a few hints for task 2, for the arguments that you need to pass in the task. So that's probably something you want to declare options for. Yeah.
Port for red chest. For the RPC, you open 18444, but is that what it's listening on for the RPC?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it could be non-standard, yeah.
I think the standard one is 18443. So at least that's the one we're trying to use.
Okay, yeah, it could be. All right, you mean, okay, yeah.
I mean, it's basically
Yeah.
to make us actually find the option for that.
Yeah, that was the intention, right? Not a mistake on my side.
I think one of these ports is like a peer-to-peer port, and the other one
Could be, could be, yeah.
which is also not intuitive. Like, what is port there? Because it's peer-to-peer.
So your app is a server, web server. It needs a port to listen on, and it also needs an RPC port. So you need to make a distinction. Also, that's you defining an API, so it makes sense to make it transparent for the user what they're defining. Yep. So one thing I just saw people doing was they were defining their options in configuration.nix. That's obviously not very defined, the options for your module. If you really read the instructions carefully, you will find out that there is a modules folder and there is a default .nix for your app, and I would recommend you define the options for your app there. Yes.
Is it the case that your time stream is the full value now?
So I think we need a few more minutes. Some people have done it. Some are still on it. If you have any issues, I'm happy to stop by and help you. So one thing I just noticed an issue in my description. So this fix me here, you're supposed to put the port in there. It's not really, you can't really tell from the instructions. That's where the port should go. I think someone just asked me about this, and I said no, but it should be there, and there should go the port. And with port, I mean the port where the web server listens on, and not the RPC port. Which one? Which ones?
The ones that are set in the app. So
Oh, okay.
like we're iterating.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah. No, I think there is. You can use the trace function, but because I don't know, it makes sense to do it. I don't know. Might be more complicated. I don't know. Yeah. Do you need help? So okay. Okay. Yeah.
I was wondering.
So I mentioned the. Where do we have it? Here. This trace function. So it prints E1. So you could pass the configuration as E1 and something else as E2. And this would print everything there is for you. Yeah. This is one option.
I was. We'll figure it out, but it's like CFG something for the variables, but then it would be nice to see like a tree of all variables.
Okay. Yeah.
Because then you could grep for.
Yeah.
So now you can easily find what a
Yeah.
for the shortcut.
Yeah. I'm not sure if there's really a shortcut. Yeah, I don't think there's. Yeah. Okay, just checking in. How far along are people? 2.3, okay. Anyone else? 2.3? 2.1, okay. Someone at 2.4? Okay. Someone at task 3 already? No? Okay. Okay, it seems like people are making progress. Most of you have run into the toString thing, that there is an integer, you port, and you can't or you can mix and match the ports and the integers. That's obviously something I planned for you to run into. I mentioned the toString function earlier, so that's a good learning. I also had the feeling that learning is that the output of the NixOS rebuild, if there is an error, is terrible. I think most of you saw it, and yeah, it's sad that it's this way, and I hope this is something people can improve in the future. I don't know. Okay, to sync up with you, sadly my internet died. I'm not sure why. The Wi-Fi here is not working. I'll fix it in a second. But so what I did, I have solutions for this. So I defined in the default.nix file, I defined a port. In this case, I set a default of null. It probably makes sense to use some other default here. And also nested the RPC stuff into another attribute set. You don't have to do that. You can do that. I saw some people doing it. That's actually, I think that's great API design. Then use the type string for the port, defaulting to localhost. Use the type port for the RPC port. String type for the password and set it default to null, so the user is reminded to set the RPC port password, and also the username as null, so they're reminded to set it. That's it for the module part, and for the configuration part. I set the app, the port to your app port. This is something I defined up here. just to make sure we all use the same port, because the port is actually something that's passed through in the through the firewall in the VM, and it makes sense to set it to the same value so we can actually reach it from the terminal of the code spaces thing. Set the RPC to localhost, the RPC host to localhost. The port I've used, or I accessed the port of the Bitcoin Core node we set up here. This is really useful if you want to make sure that if you change it here, it doesn't break down there. And I used the user workshop and the password for the RPC is defined here. And I actually just saw I didn't do the opening in the firewall, so let's just do that. Oh wait, my internet's down. Okay. So that's networking.firewall.allowed. Yeah. TCP ports, I think that's it, and then that's a list of ports, and in our case we want to just use the port we defined up there, which is config services your app port. Allowed TCP ports, yeah, that could be. I'm not sure. You also could use your app port in here. I always recommend to use the values, to reference the values you already defined in your configuration, so stuff doesn't break if you at some point change ports for this. So you only need to change it in one place. Yes. The setup crashed Rust? Oh, okay, I'm not sure. Okay, I saw some people manage to call from the your app web server. Can anyone tell me what it returns the web server? Hello world? Yes, hello world. Cool. So some people are still at task 2, other people are going on with task 3. Yes, I guess we'll catch up or sync up in a few minutes on task 3.
Silly question because I don't know what password HMAC is. Why can't we use that HMAC stuff?
So that's something that Bitcoin does. I mean this one, right?
Yeah, because there it's
Yeah.
this one is hidden in.
All right, this one is hidden, yeah. So what Bitcoin Core does, or what they do is you pass, as a command line argument, you pass this HMAC because you don't pass the password. That's just how,
That would demand my app to use the HMAC.
right, and you know you can't go back from the HMAC. The H in there is hash, so you can't go back from it. So Bitcoin Core just checks if your password matches this HMAC. Yeah, yep.
If I'm defining it elsewhere, I would want to be sure that what's provided to Bitcoin directly is the actual HMAC of my own configuration. Because if not, it won't work.
Right, yeah, it would say,
So that's another step.
yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, where did people find the RPC password? In which file did they find it? I know of at least one person that found it. Yes, where did they find it? All right, yeah. So the service obviously contains the password, and the service file is in the NixOS, and it's world readable. So do you have any idea how we can avoid this? So one idea to avoid this is to. So I'm sorry, I have trouble hearing it, but one idea is to not put any passwords in places where they are going to end up in the NixOS. And one option here is that's quite useful in NixOS is that you have a password file where the file is in some way restricted from reading for other people, and only the service can read the file, either by mounting it for the service only or by giving maybe the service user only permissions to read the file. That's one way of doing it. Obviously, this is not implemented here, but that's something, some improvement we could do. I think that's also how Nix Bitcoin does it. Jonas, please correct me if I'm wrong. You have the secrets in a file, and only the modules that are supposed to read it can read it, right? Not sure if you're following. No, okay.
We have the secrets in a file that is readable only by root, and then in the free stuff, I think.
Or maybe I'm wrong.
Okay, I haven't checked, but I just assumed that this is the way you're doing it.
We have some file where the secret is stored, and at startup of the systemd unit, we copy it into the respective configuration file.
Okay, yeah. So and only the service can read the configuration file, and the configuration file is not stored in the NixOS. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Makes sense. Okay. So that's not the password file. That's more a config file thing. But yeah, same thing.
I don't remember. Depends, maybe.
People ran the systemd analyze security thing. What were the emojis that were shown for everything running on your system? Bad? Now it's good? Okay. It says okay. What was the score for the Bitcoin D? 7? 9? We had different scores? Okay, and did anyone do 3.3 yet and were able to reduce the score? Yeah? Can you still do the crawl thing and get head of rollback? Okay, great. Because if you just copy and paste from the Nix Bitcoin thing, there is a thing in there that disables all IP connections, which breaks your app. But yeah, so and just to mention this here, to be clear, this is only one step in hardening some stuff. It doesn't mean if there is a smiling emoji that your stuff is really super secure. It's more like in a defense in depth principle thing. Then you want to have it as one step and reduce it as much as possible. And there are probably a bunch more things you can do for security and so on. For example, Nix Bitcoin does the net namespaces thing. Could probably do this also here, but not in this workshop. And then, really briefly, this came up yesterday as well. Some people were discussing it. We can run OCI containers, like Docker containers, in NixOS quite easily. This is just to show it. So if you don't manage to write a module for your app, then you should retry. And then if you again don't make it, you could also run a container in there. But I don't recommend it. Did anyone get to that yet and know what the default thing we're using on NixOS. Is it default Podman or is it default Docker? Okay, I think no one is there yet. Okay. That's for you to find out. There is, okay, as a hint, there is in the options, you can configure it in the NixOS options under the virtualization OCI container thing. There is a backend option, and you can configure it there, and it probably has a default. Yeah. So you could read it from. So no, the thing what you do is you place the password file or whatever configuration file, you place it in some directory or some place. Maybe you mount something where only the servers can read it, and then the actual tool, the actual app that reads the file. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Usually, like many programs have like a configuration file directory, and then they read it from there. Yeah, yeah. No, 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 no. So a few people were running into this when setting up or when using the OCI container Docker thing. It says, I'm looking in the NixOS options thing for it, and it says it's called ports. Ports is the plural, and the type of is a list of strings. So the example shows you have to put it in the whatever you call these braces for it to work. Okay, so I think it makes sense to finish up in the next few minutes. I just wanted to show one more thing, which is the NixOS containers thing. So in NixOS, you can spawn containers that run NixOS quite easily. So if you want to run a container with a full system, that's a really easy way of doing it. It's uses systemd nspawn. So all systems that support systemd nspawn actually support NixOS containers, so you can actually run a NixOS container on your Ubuntu machine. Because Ubuntu uses systemd, you can't run it on your Mac because your Mac probably doesn't run systemd. What I did NixOS container create, start, create and start VCT pp23, and then I can do a root login into it. And as you see, I'm in the virtual machine GitHub gives us, in our NixOS virtual machine inside of a NixOS container. It's an empty container, there's nothing running in there, but we could run stuff in there. And there are two ways of defining these containers. You can either define them by just typing the comments, which is imperatively, as the Nix people call it, or you can also declaratively define these containers and have in your configuration file a container configuration that just starts the container and runs stuff in there. And that's, again, you can configure this just as you would configure or define stuff in the configuration.nix file. So you could have a container for your database if you for any reason want to do this. Oh, also for the question one here, is it Podman or Docker? NixOS defaults to Podman. You can find that in the options here as well. I think it's back and which defaults to Podman. Okay, let's finish up what we've covered. We covered basics of systemd, controlling the service and looking into the status. We also covered NixOS rebuild, obviously here in the shell script during the limitations, because of the limitations of the VM we're in, or the GitHub code spaces thing. We also covered declaring and defining options. I think that's a part where most people learned a bunch of new stuff. We also briefly systemd hardening. Obviously, there is more to be done if you really want to run stuff in production, but that should give you an idea of what's possible with NixOS and what we can do. And we also covered these OCI containers on NixOS and also the NixOS containers. Feel free to keep on hacking on the tasks, and I'll also be around if you have questions or need help. But I guess it makes sense to start the general hack day for the other people now. Thanks from my side. I had the feeling people learned a bunch. People learned that the NixOS error outputs are terrible. That's one learning. But I think all of which I spoke to, I saw you progressing. I saw at least 10 people in task 4, so that's good. One more thing for the hackathon. I've been hacking on Bitcoin D Unix thing. It's a mix of geeks and Nix. We currently in Bitcoin Core we use geeks to build the release binaries for all systems, and I came up with the fun challenge for myself of reproducing the build in Nix, the one we have in geeks, and with a big question: can we produce the same binary bit for bit in Nix that we produce in geeks? And some people have told me no, some people have told me maybe. I say I don't know yet, we find out, and even if not, I think it's a fun challenge. And if anyone wants to join me on this, come see me. That's it.
Hey guys, we had one quick announcement that Cody wanted to make. Cody, and then lunch will be, there's 2 places that are gonna be open for lunch today. There's a pho place, which is right next to Holtzmark Pearl, that way, and then the pizza place will also be open. They don't open till 12:30 though, so just FYI, another 30 minutes. Okay, go for it, Cody.
Alrighty. Hey guys, so how many people here have used Clover before? Yes? No? Okay, so just for the hack day, just something that I've been helping Patrick cook up at Clover for this, because we use them for Fedimint, and we're going to use, well, let me just show you a couple things, right? So if you go to clover.app, so the same way that, kind of similar to how Timo set up that GitHub code spaces for us, is that Clover has set up so that you can do this. You can go to clover.app/instant/code Nix. And this is going to spin up just very similar to the code space that we just used for the workshop. This is going to spin up a Nix environment for you. So you just click launch. And then you have a VS Code running against a VPS that's already got Nix loaded on it, right? And so you can do like Nix flake knit, right? And there you go, right? Cool. And so it's already got everything loaded. So if you guys want just like very quick spin up environment stuff of just go clover dot, I'll put it in the Telegram. You just go to https://clover.app/instant/code Nix. There you go. And then, like, why is this cool? Is because eventually, and I'm working with them to do this for a bunch of Bitcoin projects, you're going to be able to go to clover.app/instant/code Fedimint. And so this is going to clone down from the Fedimint repo, GitHub repo, and it'll recognize that there's a Nix flake, And so it'll spit you into the Nix develop environment when you go onto here, right? So it's like whenever you want to like onboard a new developers, whatever, to your project, then you can just do that. So I can click like launch now. Now I've got a new environment where we've got, oh, this is the old version. That's okay though. Is that here, because the reason why we did this was because for a lot of the stuff of like onboarding new developers, right? Like even just like we're using Nix already, but like how do you quickly spin up a new instance and like not have to do all the downloads and all that kind of stuff? And like what Clover can do is that once, if you just work with them from your open source project and you say like, hey, well, if we want to spin up like a instance with this stuff, they can cache all of the Nix packages that you guys are going to be using. And so that whenever they do that, then they run the Docker script for spinning up the Nix environment, and then they load directly from them all of the Nix packages and stuff that you guys need, right? So like immediately when you split this, spin this up, like I can go into Fediment, and then do, I should be able to just do just mprox. One sec. Just tmuxinator. This one's a little bit older. Yeah, but so right now it's just doing the Rust analyzer stuff, right? But then once it gets locked on there, then it'll like build Fediment and start, right? Which is pretty cool. So if you guys can do that. And then what's also cool about that is that you can do that Clover for setting up in developer environments. But then this one's really special if you guys want to do this too. In the same way, you can do deployments. So I can do clover.app/, I think I should just be able to do Fediment. Yeah, right? And so if you guys go there right now, clover.app/Fediment, then you guys can do a one-click launch of a, like they're building it off of like our repo that we have there, right? Is that this will build and deploy Fediment, a Fediment node, so like a Fediment Guardian node and a Lightning Gateway. Or you can go to fediment.app/tags/Fediment. And this one lets you spin out just the gateway or just the node on MutinyNet, right? And so for like all your guys' projects that you guys are working on, you guys, like Clovers, they're like super into Bitcoin and like they really want to help out with this. So any of you guys who want to do this, you can just have like a one click and now you have both a developer environment, or you can deploy like an LND node or a Core Lightning node or whatever it is, right? Like from their environments, which is pretty cool, right? And then we're going to go to lunch, but then later I'll show you guys how to use, so for, if you go to, like once you do code Nix, then Eric kind of gave a quick demo of this earlier, but we're going to go through how to do Flakebox. And so Flakebox is all of the fancy Nix configuration stuff that we've done within Fediment. Like our Nix wizard DPC, he pulled all of that out into his like Rust shop Flakebox. And basically just like, this is going to be setting up a new Rust project and then adding in, just like in a couple commands, all of the super nice fanciness that we have, right? So like all of the GitHub actions, the CI/CD pipelines, it's like during the CI/CD pipeline, so that it uses like intermediate caching for when it's building everything and stuff. How to do cross compilation, so like just out of the box, you get cross compilation for Rust of like all of the different architectures that you want. How to like add all the dependencies and stuff like that, and that's all here. This like so Flakebox is DPC's almost done with it, but this is like what we use internally within Fediment. He abstracted it out into Flakebox and then put it back in for like Fediment and Fedi. He's like currently working on that one, but so this is exactly the same thing that we use, right? So it's gonna be really cool. So I guess we can go to lunch and then afterward we can run through this. Okay, wait, do you want to just do this right now then? Or? Okay, cool. Yeah, so we'll just do this right now. It's really fast. So if you guys are on your computers, then you can just go, we're just gonna spin up a completely new environment, make a new Rust project, then we're going to add Flakebox in, and then we're going to add some like non-trivial C dependencies, and then just like demonstrate that this like actually works, right? And so this is the tutorial that DPC made. And so if you guys don't know DPC, he's like an absolute wizard for Fediment, github.com/ I think he's just DPC, right?
Yeah, it's just DPC.
Yeah. Yeah, so he is like a total OG with embedment, Nix, and Rust, right? But so he built this out, and we're going to run through this whole thing. It's going to be really cool, right? So have you guys been able to open this? This should work for everybody. If you guys go to clover.app/instant/code-nix. Put your hand up if you're there. You have a new environment. Okay, I see one hand. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah, so it works with any Rust project, but like the problem is like, so once you get in there, then there's certain Rust things that you're going to have to do, but Flakebot makes it really easy for adding them, right? So like one of the examples is like when you're trying to do a cross compilation for Mac architecture, right? Then you have to do like the C linking and that kind of stuff, and so Flakebot makes it pretty easy to do that too. Like we're going to go through how to do that exactly. Okay. Cool. Yep, I put it in the Telegram group. Okay, it's clover.app/instant/code-nix. So you guys should see this page. Should be able to click launch.
That might be only me, but it's telling me no instance is available.
Oh, well that's not good. They should have lots of instances available. Here, I'll let Patrick know. One sec. Yeah, you should be able to do either. Yeah, you can try it.
If it works for you, maybe it's just some local state that I have in my browser.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, hopefully it pumps it up. Whatever, I'll just walk through it on here, and you guys can follow along for it. Then the Flakebox tutorial is here. There you go. Cool. All right, so here we go. So we're going to make a Flakebox tutorial. Oh, where's that? There we go. Okay. And then we're going to do, so like these code instant environments already have Nix loaded, and so like I'm not even going to install Rust. I'm just going to use from Nix packages. I'm just going to use cargo, right? And so we go here. It's going to be run Nix packages cargo -- init. There you go. All right, so we're running it. It takes a sec. Let's just close a bunch of these. Cool. Okay. So now we have a brand new project, right? So just your normal Rust. And so if I do here, right? So I actually don't have Rust C installed, right? So if I do which Rust C, right? So like, you know, I was able to build it off of using Nix packages, which is pretty cool. And so we're going to make a new Nix flake. And just out of the box, it just gives you this very basic Nix flake, right? Then, so there's a couple things that we're going to do, right? Is that one of the things you can do is you can use something called Crane, which is like within Nix packages, basically, you've got like cargo for your package management for like the Rust specific stuff. And then you've got Crane in Nix, which basically lifts cargo out into Nix, right? And so it uses Nix for doing all of the package building and stuff, right? It's like a pretty cool way of doing it. So let's just do the first couple things. So first thing we're going to do is add a couple lines to our flake. It's going to look like this. Right? So we're going to find the inputs, and the inputs you can define the specific channel that you want to use. And so we're going to use like the last stable release of all the Nix packages. And then we're going to use Flakebox. And Flakebox is going to pull from there. We might have to change this, right? And then we're going to say like, hey, we want to follow Nix packages. So whatever packages we're using in here, also use those same ones within Flakebox, right? So then here I can do Nix Flake check. There we go, right? And so we're good. Cool. Now, so setting up a Flakebox dev shell, right? So we're going to want a dev shell where we can like go in with Nix develop and have it be the same for everybody, basically regardless of whatever architecture they're using, right? So these are the changes that you're going to have to make in order to do the dev shell. So we're going to go here. We're just going to get flake utils, and then we're going to define a dev shell that we're going to use Flakebox for. It should be there. Okay. Cool. So now Nix Flake check. Oh, whoops. There we go. Okay, so now it's pulling Flakebox and Flake utils. Okay. And then if you guys, you can just go here and just copy this Nix Flake as is if you want for that one. Okay, cool. So like a couple things to point out here is that here we've got like flake utils for each default system. Set Flakebox lib to the corresponding Flakebox system, right? So this is going to be basically like configure the dev shell so that it works correctly even if they're running it from like Mac or like some weird Linux architecture or from Windows or whatever it is, right? Like it'll always spit out the same dev shell for it. And it'll like route the system to the correct one that it's going to use, right? So like this is, if you're running on Mac, then this is really important to use. So then we can go here. Okay, fine there. So now you can enter the dev shell right now by just doing Nix develop. And so currently this doesn't have any of the cargo stuff yet, but once we add in Crane and we add some of the Rust dependencies, like you're going to see how powerful this is, especially, and then we're going to add a bunch of stuff when you do Flakebox install. and it'll add like all the GitHub pipelines, all that kind of stuff for as we're using it, right? So, we're almost there. Okay, it's going through. We're like almost there. For this? I'm pretty sure this is, if I remember properly, I think it's. Do where? Yeah. Ah. Well, that's okay. Okay, while it's doing this, I'll just do the next couple parts so you guys can see what it does. So we have to do the, so we have to install the Flakebox files, which we'll be able to do once we get in the dev shell. But the thing that we're going to add, which is going to be super magic, is going to be this Rust source, right? And so this is like telling it where your Rust project is building from. And so it's going to add in these paths for it, for like where the cargo toml is, the source, all that kind of stuff. And then it's, for the outputs, it's going to use Crane. And Crane, Flakebox libs, Crane multi-build is going to, out of the box, give you cross-compilation from the dev shell and whenever you build a project for like all the different architectures that you can possibly build the Rust for, right? Which can be super cool. So hopefully that is added in now. And so there we go. Okay, cool. So let's do that part first. All right, so Flakebox, well, let me just add git add dot. Oh, God damn it. One sec. Okay. So Flakebox install. It's going to install a bunch of files for us, right? So one is giving us a .config for Flakebox, where you get semgrep, and you can set all your settings and stuff in there. Within Flakebox, you've got this shell hook, right, which is going to work with the dev shell in order to like set up all your stuff and give you git commit hooks. Then in .github, you get a Flakebox CI, you get FlakeHub publish, right, so like GitHub workflows. And there's some miscellaneous stuff where you can set like commit messages, commit templates, pre-commit checks, right? So like all this out of the box. You get a just file with basically everything that you would need for building cargo projects for like all the cross-compilation stuff. And then you get Rust bumped and durenv setup. You get all sorts of nice fanciness, right? And then it also sets up for typos and like CLI checks, typos and CI checks and stuff. So I can go here and do nix flake check. Okay, it's checking flake output, and so we're good. So and then I can do, let's do this, right? So I'll try to do a git commit, but like without using conventional commits, right? So git add dot commit -m blah. Oh, wait, sorry, I have to commit that one first. Once I do it, then I have the git commit checks, right? So let me like try doing a typo somewhere or something. I'll do like test there, and then this should give me, throw an error when I try to do this. Not a conventional commit. Oh, wait, sorry. I have to reset the developer environment. Okay, yeah, so now I'm in the developer environment, so it gives me all the just commands, and this is where it's going to be able to do the commit checks, right? So let's try another one. Let's do blah, blah. Thingy. Git add dot git commit -m. Not a conventional commit. There we go, right? So this one, oh shit, this is a Clover error. That's okay. Yeah. But so there's like a couple things, right? So it says like, hey, you need to update your cargo.toml. You have to do these changes. I don't know why it's throwing this error, but should be giving me that it found typos, and it's like enforcing the Git hooks before I do this. This is just like this is a annoying locale setting. That's okay. Let's just move to the cargo part. So I go here, do this, back in my Nix flake. Okay. Okay, so this is going to add in, as my Rust source, those things. And then for my outputs, I'm going to get the crane multi-build, right? So I should be able to do Nix flake check. No, because I need to get rid of that. Where is that? Flakebox lib. Oh, sorry, put it in the wrong place. There we go. Okay. So now I can do Nix develop. I can do just B. Sweet. Okay, so that just compiled my project, and it used Crane to like pull it out from Cargo to like using Nix packages to do it, like I'd already configured with Flakebox. And now, just out of the box, I get cross compilation for this stuff, right? So I can show that by going in here, doing, yeah. So it's got the explanation for like how all this works using Crane. And then we can add in this last bit. Sorry. So over here, it gives me that I can build workspace dependencies only, that I can build workspace, or I can build package, right? And so like for all of those, it's not like, hey, I have to build and use all of the like developer and stuff when I'm using the CI pipeline of that. It'll just use the stuff that it actually needs for building the project, and specifically on the architecture that it's building it for within the pipeline, which is pretty cool. Right? And these are all the things that you get cross-compilation for, right? So you get like Arch64 Android, ARM Android, x86, 64 Android. You get like all of these things just out of the box with it. And then, yeah, we don't have to do that one. So let's try this. So we're going to try building. I think I just did that already, but that's okay. Oh, here we go. I have to rename. What's up? Oh, sorry. Okay. Yeah. Well, you guys can just continue following the tutorial for this, but like the cool thing about this, right, is that once you configure and set this up for whatever Rust project you're going to be using for, you get like out of the box all of the awesome, cool stuff that like we've built with Infediment, and You get that just for your project, and now anybody else using your project, they get exactly what you want. They can like run CI locally. They can do all of it, right? Which is like super cool, right? So if you have a Rust project, like highly encourage that you check out Flakebox and you give it a try, right? So all right, thanks guys.
I think lunch should be open, y'all, if you want to head out to get lunch. I think Matt wanted to do like a 2-minute, 5-minute, 2-minute, 5-minute chat. But if you guys want to get lunch, feel free. This is like optional. Matt wanted to show off a way of running similar stuff, not using Clover. But yeah, lunch places should be open now. Cool. Oh, also there's t-shirts. T-shirts came in today. If you can pick one up next to like the coffee and snacks on the bar in here. Great. Okay.
Okay, guys, this is just a quick demo, and it's probably going to come in handy for anyone that wants to do this sort of stuff. If you do this, SSH, all you need is SSH. You can do this on Windows, you can do it on macOS, doesn't make a difference as long as you've got SSH. You can SSH into VM at remote.training.nix.how on port 1337, and it will just spin up a VM for you, and you can use it. And it's just NixOS, and you can go in etc NixOS, configure it, do a rebuild switch, right? The password is I hate Nix. That's the password when you get it. So the VM is launched, and we're in it, and we go to etc NixOS, and we get configuration.nix, but we don't have Vim, so we need to nix shell Vim, and edit it, modify it to our heart's content, do a NixOS rebuild switch, and that's kind of it. You can do everything that was just demonstrated, but in this VM, if you would like. A new VM for everyone every time they connect, yeah. The login is VM at, oh yeah, I'll put it back on the screen. Okay. Yeah, if someone could put that in Telegram, that'd be great. And now you guys are going to crash the machine. It's not load balanced. It'll be quite interesting.
Do we get a new machine every time we connect? Or
Yeah, so please don't abuse it. You get a new machine every time you connect.
so it's not matching the SSH key or something?
Correct. It could, right? Like this is a product I want to build, but I don't have any money, so there you go. Just like that, you just SSH into that, and it'll spin up a new VM and give you it. Oh, I'm not going to tell you how it does that. So yeah, it's a secret. So NixOS rebuild switch in one of these guests, and yeah. Interestingly, let's have a look at the host that's doing this, and let's monitor it. So every one of these TMP files or folders is a different VM. So that's how many people are connected right now.
How do you get out of VM?
You just quit. Like, yeah, it's because it's over SSH. You have to like do Control enter or something like that. It's just SSH.
Enter twiddle dot.
Enter twiddle dot. That's it. Yeah.
That's an old CU break thing for like the serial call out utility. Little CU command from the modem days.
So yeah, so you see each one of these TMP folders is a different person, right? And the moment that you guys disconnect, all these TMPs will disappear. You see some of them are disappearing right now. You see no such file directory. That's some people logging out. So I guess that means there's quite a few VMs at this point, right? Like each one of these TMPs is a VM, so. Oh yeah, so sadly it's locked to 60 or, what is it, 24 by 48 characters. Yeah. Yeah, look, there's people connecting right now. I wanted to like display it. It's just too many people have connected. I can't really get it all on the screen. Oh yeah, there you go. That's everyone. TMPs. So that must be everyone in this room, right? Damn. So now I'm going to kick you all out, okay? So the way I'm going to kick you all out is by going into the host and doing a pkill -9 QEMU. Right? And what's going to happen? All those TMPs are going to disappear. There you go. Not quite all of them, though. So yeah, if you guys need to play around, you can do that.
Eventually for this, would it be possible if I could be like, hey, SSH in, this is my flake?
Absolutely. That's one of the things I want to implement.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And in fact, flake URIs are actually valid usernames. Oh yeah, by the way, guys, it's all happening on my phone in my pocket. So. I'm just kidding. So, yeah, like, if I want to run Bitwarden in this context, I can just get Vim again, because this is a new VM. I can go to my Vault Warden configuration, which is on my GitHub, which everyone can copy from. I'll take this Nix code. It's like services.vaultwarden.enable = true. I'll just copy that. And now we'll put it into our configuration like this. Right? And then we'll quit. We'll do an NixOS rebuild switch. And then in a moment, I'm going to have Vault Warden, going to be running it, and then I'll be able to give you all a link to it. There we go. Vault Warden's pretty minimal. It's a pretty incredible piece of software. Okay, there we go. And now, because we're behind NAT, I can't give you a link to it unless I tunnel it out. So I'm going to get another tool called Bohr CLI. And I'm going to do Bohr local. What port is it running on? That's a good question. 8222. And if you all go to this, you'll be able to see the running machine. Let me get that up. So. And there's your fancy new Vault Warden provisioned in the VM. Right? So if you want to play around, you can just use this thing to your heart's content, and I'll have it up for the event, but I'm probably going to shut it down later on. And that's my talk.
It's done, yeah. Just regarding lunch, as far as I'm informed, the stands are only going to be open until 1:30. So if you want to eat something, you should probably get it now.